Just a dusty old garage, the city official sneered, waving his hand like swatting a fly. Bulldoze it. Arthur's grip tightened on the worn keys, his hands, usually so steady, now trembling. They saw only scrap. He saw a lifetime. What they didn't know was the silent power held within those walls, a legacy about to ignite. Arthur, at 76, wasn't just an old man with a garage. He was a living testament to service and quiet resilience. A retired army mechanic, his hands, though now showing their age with gentle tremors, had once disarmed bombs and repaired vital fuel lines under enemy fire in Vietnam and Operation Desert Storm. He could still pinpoint an engine problem just by its sound. For the last 30 years, his humble veteran's garage stood on the edge of town, a beacon of honest work and selfless dedication. It wasn't fancy, no gleaming chrome or digital diagnostics, just an honest place where problems were truly fixed, not merely patched. But his garage was more than just a place for repairs. It was a sanctuary, a gathering point. A small American flag, replaced with solemn precision every Memorial Day, fluttered proudly out front. Inside, coffee was always brewing, and the air was thick with the scent of oil, metal, and quiet understanding. Veterans, men and women who had served, would stop by, sometimes to talk about their burdens, sometimes just to sit in comfortable silence, knowing they were among kindred spirits. Arthur didn't charge them. He simply fixed their vehicles for free, a silent promise kept to his comrades. His philosophy, forged in the crucible of war, was simple. Better to build something than to break something. He lived this by mentoring local teens, like Luis, a quiet boy he'd caught trying to steal tools the previous summer. Instead of calling the police, Arthur had offered him a wrench and a lesson. Now, Luis was learning not just about engines, but about respect, responsibility, and the dignity of honest work. Arthur made just enough to keep the lights on and buy parts, never seeking profit, only purpose. His garage was a symbol of hope, a place where broken things, be it a car engine or a spirit, could find a way back to wholeness. It was a silent battlefield, one not with bullets, but with kindness, grease, and unwavering dedication. This irreplaceable haven was now marked for destruction, seen by city officials as nothing more than an eyesore, a relic to be swept aside for progress. The first sign of the coming storm, a city truck, disgorging an official whose shoes were too shiny for the dusty lot, his smile too practiced. "Rezoning update," he chirped, clipboard in hand. "This area is now commercial mixed use. You'll have to vacate by Friday." Arthur blinked, his weathered face etched with confusion. "This garage has been here longer than the strip mall since 1991, he rumbled, his voice a low plea. "Doesn't matter," the man countered, checking his watch impatiently. "Progress happens. You've got 5 days. It's all legal. Notice was posted in the municipal bulletin." Arthur stood in stunned silence, his loyal service dog, Max, an aging German shepherd, whimpering softly at his feet, sensing his master's deep distress. The official's words echoed in the quiet garage, a death knell for decades of dedication. The very next day, a demolition crew arrived, not to work, but to measure and mock. They walked around the old building, laughing openly. One man pointed at the rusted gutters, sneering, "This place looks like it should have been condemned in '80. How's it even standing?" Arthur said nothing. With quiet dignity, he simply opened the garage doors and led them through. Inside, tool chests were organized with military precision. Wall photos of young men in uniform hung faded but proud, carefully folded flags rested on shelves, and a shadow box of medals, never mentioned, sat on a dusty workbench covered in blueprints from his service days. But they didn't care. They didn't ask. One of them even pulled out his phone, snapping a selfie in front of the building, joking loudly, "Getting ready to level Grandpa's shack." Arthur simply nodded, his heart breaking, but his dignity intact. He carefully locked the doors one last time and handed over the keys, each movement a silent testament to the pain of loss. That evening, sitting in his small trailer behind the now empty shop, he stared at a folded letter, yellowed at the edges. It was signed by a young lieutenant, crediting Arthur with saving his unit from a fuel line fire in Iraq. "Without your actions," it read, "we would have lost everyone. Some debts can never be repaid." On his wall hung a photo of those men, half of whom never came home. His hands, usually so steady, trembled as he packed a small box of keepsakes, a Purple Heart he'd never displayed, a challenge coin from the Joint Chiefs for exceptional service, and a wrench engraved with Dunar, Unit 327, a gift from the men he'd rotated home with. Max lay at his feet, head resting on his paws, eyes never leaving Arthur's face, a silent comfort in the face of insurmountable defeat. Across the street, the construction crew for the new development loaded equipment for the next day's demolition. Their boisterous laughter, "Bet that old guy cried when we showed up. Place is an eyesore anyway," echoed through Arthur's thin trailer walls, a cruel reminder of his helplessness. Unseen by them, Luis, the teenager Arthur had mentored, watched from a distance. His hands shook, not from cold, but from a quiet fury at what he was witnessing. He pulled out his phone and texted someone, a silent promise forming in his mind. Inside, Arthur whispered to Max, running his fingers through the dog's fur. "They don't know what this place really was," he murmured. "What we did there, who we helped." Max simply licked his hand, a testament to the uncomplicated comfort of a loyal companion. The next morning, the city posted a press release online. Another old structure cleared for redevelopment, future coffee hub and fitness studio to revitalize struggling neighborhood. A photo of the garage, digitally marked with a triumphant X, accompanied the text. Comments poured in, mostly indifferent or supportive. About time they cleaned up that dump. Nothing historic about a greasy shack. Arthur, who didn't have internet, remained unaware of the public sentiment. Later that afternoon, he walked to City Hall to appeal the decision, wearing his only suit, slightly too large now. At the reception desk, a young secretary barely looked up from her phone. "You should have filed an appeal 2 months ago when notices went out," she droned, uninterested. "I didn't know," Arthur replied quietly. "I don't have internet." "Well, that's not our fault," she said, returning to her screen without meeting his eyes. "The process is the process." Arthur left without another word, his shoulders straight despite the crushing defeat. At home, he sat heavily on his worn recliner and opened an envelope from the back of his service journal. Inside, a handwritten letter from the same lieutenant he'd saved, now a major general stationed at the Pentagon. The last line read, "If you ever need anything, Chief, you call me. I owe you more than I can repay. No matter how many years pass, that debt remains." Arthur hesitated, pride warring with necessity. In all his years, he had never asked for help, never called in favors. But this wasn't about him. It was about the garage, about the kids like Luis who needed a place to learn, about the veterans who found peace there. He picked up the phone, dialing a number he'd memorized but never used. "General Grayson's office," a crisp voice answered. Arthur swallowed hard. "This is Master Sergeant Arthur Dunar. I served with the General in Desert Storm." There was a moment of silence. "One moment, please, Sergeant. The General has standing orders to put your call through immediately." The next morning dawned cool and clear, perfect for demolition. The crew arrived early, coffee in hand, their jokes echoing loudly as engines rumbled to life. Yellow machines like predatory beasts lined up, ready to devour the old structure. One man leaned against a bulldozer, scrolling through his phone. "Bet this will make a great before and after for my Instagram shack progress happens." But then, an unexpected sight. A convoy of 4 black SUVs with government plates rolled silently onto the street, coming to a precise halt. The demolition crew froze, conversations dying mid-sentence. Doors opened simultaneously, and uniformed soldiers emerged, followed by a man in full-dress uniform, silver stars on each shoulder catching the morning light. Major General Thomas Grayson had arrived. He walked directly toward Arthur, who stood near the old mailbox, back straight despite the years. They exchanged salutes with practiced precision. "Permission to visit the battlefield, sir?" the general said, his voice firm but full of warmth. Arthur nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. "Always, Lieutenant." "Always." The general then turned to face the stunned crew. "Stand down immediately." A city official, clipboard clutched to his chest, rushed forward. "This is authorized by the municipal board." The general handed over a document bearing the Pentagon seal. "And now countermanded by a federal order. This garage is being reviewed under the Historic Veteran Preservation Act as a site of significant military value." A murmur went through the rapidly growing crowd as reporters, tipped off by someone online, began to arrive, cameras clicking, phones recording. General Grayson stepped onto the garage steps, commanding attention without raising his voice. "Let me tell you about this building. In 1991, during Operation Desert Storm, 6 soldiers lived because Master Sergeant Arthur Dunar crawled through flames to repair a sabotaged fuel line. Without his actions, I wouldn't be standing here today." He gestured toward the humble structure. "This very bench," he pointed inside, "was where he trained generations of young people to save lives, not just engines. Where veterans found purpose when the war followed them home." The construction crew looked at each other, then slowly dropped their gear. One man removed his hard hat and held it against his chest. Luis, the teen from earlier, pushed through the crowd to stand in the front row, tears in his eyes. "He taught me how to fix my first bike," he choked out. "Didn't charge me a cent. Said all he wanted was for me to help someone else someday." Others stepped forward one by one, sharing stories of Arthur's quiet kindness. The general pulled out a plaque, its bronze surface gleaming. "This garage stands as a federal historic veteran landmark, effective immediately, for service above and beyond, both in war and in peace." Applause erupted, cameras flashed, and the city official backed away, phone already to his ear. Arthur stood quietly, Max leaning against his leg. "They laughed when I gave them the keys," he whispered, his voice catching. "Said it was just a dusty old garage." The general placed a hand on his shoulder. "They won't laugh again, Chief. That I promise you."